Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ainom Shamiri Ashley. If you're new here, welcome to the community. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I know that I've been away for, a while, and I promise that in 2024 we're going to be locked in. But unfortunately, I was going through a little bit of some stuff at the time, which I'm going to share today in this video. But before we do that, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this page with your friends, because you never know who this video could help. So last year I was diagnosed with fibroids, and that's what I would like to talk about today. Now, I know somebody might think, well, it's how could you have been diagnosed with fibroids at your young age? Because when we talk about fibroids, we usually talk about a bit older women, maybe in their 30s plus, or women who have already had kids or are looking to have children. However, I got diagnosed with mine last year. Actually, no, I was diagnosed with my fibroids in 2024, late 2024, I think in November or December. However, I decided to do something about it in 2025, and I had to have surgery. So I had to take a break from everything. Now, before we go into the gist of things, I just wanted to talk about what fibroids actually are, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what the condition actually entails. Fibroids are benign tumors that grow within your uterus. They can also grow on the exterior. I think scientifically they call it anterior, the post-anterior, but they can grow outside your uterus or inside your uterus. And the key word is benign tumors, meaning they do not have cancer. If it's something that's cancerous, then it cannot be a fibroid. It's something else entirely. So for me, I was diagnosed with something very similar to fibroids when I was much younger. I think I've talked about it on this page before, which is fibroadenoma. Now that one was in my boobs. Fibroadenoma is also benign tumors or tissue in your boobs that causes discomfort. Now for my fibroids, I was diagnosed with 5 fibroids altogether. I had 2 separate consultations. I think if you've watched my vlogs on this channel, then you know this. And at first I thought maybe like we're overthinking it, maybe it's not that deep, not that serious. But unfortunately, I had 2 very big ones. I had one that was, I think, 10 centimeters times 8 or times 12, one of the 2. I've forgotten, don't quote me. But I had a really huge one, and it was seated on my bladder. So I had to get this taken out. Now, I was very scared to go the operation route, because obviously there's no surgery that's easy. Every surgery is invasive. And as much as fibroids are pretty common in a lot of women, my mom had fibroids as well. So it's not like it's a very rare thing, but it has a lot of misconceptions, and it's very under-researched, including by doctors themselves. So a lot of doctors will tell you you're very fertile, right? Like your issue is you're very fertile, or you need to have children in order for you to escape those fibroids. Now, my mom has had 4 children out of herself, and she had over 30 plus fibroids. So having children has nothing to do with your fibroid development. It's very genetic for the most part. I think also they talk about estrogen dominance. However, I would not like to say for sure that I have estrogen dominance, because I never actually got my hormonal levels tested. They never actually tested to see if I have high estrogen. However, when I've Googled the symptoms of people who might have estrogen dominance in their bodies, I fit almost every single one of them. So I will leave you to do with that what you will, because fibroids feed a lot on estrogen. And I think why people might assume that if you get pregnant, you're going to mitigate your fibroids is because when you're pregnant, your estrogen levels tend to fall, and then your progesterone tends to rise. And if there's less estrogen in the body, chances are the fibroids are not growing as much. But you're not going to be pregnant 9 months every single year. That just doesn't make practical sense. So of course, that's not a practical solution. If anything, it's not a solution. So doctors telling women to get pregnant or to find time to first get pregnant before, besides, if you actually want to have kids, they might tell you to have a child now so that they can take them out as, after you've had your baby, that's an absolutely valid thing. But to say that it's something that's because of a dormant womb or because you're not having children is not entirely true. I also would like to state that fibroids predominantly affect Black and women of color. So that contributes to why it's also under-researched, because as we all know, there's a lot of medical misogyny and medical racism. So when you're approaching this, I would really advise anyone who has fibroids to read so much about it so that you can be able to appropriately advocate for yourself in terms of what your body might need. So for me, the first doctor that I went to was a man, and he was very nice, very kind and whatever, but I remember I was very scared of having like a scar because I'm young, I don't want to have a scar in my bikini or anything like that. So I was very scared to get a scar on my stomach because at that time I was 24 and I'm thinking I don't want to wear like a bikini or something or get naked and feel insecure in myself. So I specifically asked him, because again, I read a lot before I went in for any consultation, and I specifically asked for a laparoscopy. A laparoscopy is small incisions that they make on your body in order to take out the fibroids. They don't actually cut you fully open. And I remember I said a laparoscopy can be done for sure. And I was preparing myself to do that. And then eventually what ended up happening is I meet with another doctor. She was a friend of my mom's. And when she examines me herself, she tells me that it would be ill-advised for me to have a laparoscopy because of how big my fibroid is. And if it is that big, then it means that I might experience a lot of bleeding as they're trying to take it out. And a lot of bleeding is dangerous for you if you're having surgery. So I ended up pivoting and leaving that doctor alone and decided to go with this doctor that was a friend of my mom's. Shout out to her, she was amazing. So we decided that we're going to have to do an open surgery. However, she said that she's going to make sure that it is as aesthetic as possible, which now, as somebody who has recovered, it's healing pretty nice. It's a scar. It's going to be a scar. It's not going to be a scar, but it does not look as gory as I had expected. So it's very important to do your research, because you could be told one thing, but then you might actually require another. When your fibroids are a bit too big, it's not advisable. When it's where mine was, it's not advisable for you to go for a laparoscopy. You need to do I think it's called a myectomy. Yeah, an open surgery. So what ends up happening is I set my date for December and I have the surgery. Now, I want to talk about the other ways that you could get fibroids out just before I get into mine. So for me personally, I had an open myectomy. However, there's something called uterine fibroid embolization, where they basically go into the fibroid and kind of, I don't know how to explain what they inject it with, that kind of freezes it up. It kind of like fossilizes it, if that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make them disappear, but it stifles it from continuing to feed and growing in your womb. It doesn't eradicate them, but it stops their growth. Now, I had looked into that option as well because I was very, very scared again to have a surgery, but it did not seem like the option for me because mine was very big and it was sitting on my bladder, so it was hindering proper function of my bladder. So I decided that the best option for me was to have to take it out, because at the end of the day, regardless, this thing was still hindering and sitting on it. And uterine fibroid embolization takes, I think, about 2 weeks or 3 weeks to set in, if I'm not correct. So I needed something that was actually going to take them out. Now, you need to know that when you have fibroid surgery, it's actually not like a cure, because chances are the fibroids are going to come back. Why? Because these are tumors that we don't know why they grow. We don't know exactly what brings them. We don't know. I think one doctor tried to explain that there's like fibers of a fibroid in your uterus. Like it's like there's a seed there, and all it does is it just needs to feed on those hormones and everything, and then it will continue growing. So when you cut out one, you've cut out the fruit of it essentially, but not the exact root, because we don't really understand how that works. I'm not so sure. A lot of people, they might come back when they're not sitting on anything important. For example, my mom had fibroids, but hers were not sitting on any important organs, but she had more than me. She had, I think, 30 fibroids. I had 5 fibroids, but the one that I had, the biggest one was seated on something that was important. So you also have to factor in things like that. Not every single person who has fibroids needs to actually go for surgery. We need to know that. Not all of them hinder anything. Sometimes you can live with them and you don't even know what's going on. Some people have extremely painful periods with their fibroids. For me, it was not so much painful periods, but it was starting to cause a bit heavier flows and a bit of an an irregularity in my flow. So you have to watch out for different symptoms to see if yours need a surgery or you can just live with yours. So I had my surgery, and I would like to talk about the cost and the healing process. It was a cost of about 6 million in total with everything else, the drugs and all of that together. I would say it's about 6 million, but that's excluding the money that you spend in consultations with different doctors, to be honest, because the more you go to different doctors, you're going to have to pay consultation fees over and over and over again. Would I say it was worth it? 100%, because the downtime is not as insane, to be honest. But also, again, we're young. If you don't have like an actual other health ailment, your healing process is a bit more different. So for me, I think the worst week was the first week. The first week I really couldn't walk. I'm going to insert pictures of what my fibroids looked like and kind of me in the first week at the hospital and what I was like, feeling and looking like. So the first week, I couldn't walk really, but you have to walk because you have to remind your legs how to move, and you have to create, blood flow back into your body. It was all right. It wasn't really painful, to be honest. It's just that you can't shower for the entire first week. You can't bathe yourself. You can't really go to the bathroom by yourself either, and you have to wear like it's not a pad, but it's like a cotton gauze thing that they put there because you're bleeding for that first week. You're not bleeding like period heavy, but you're having like some blood flow. So, I mean, the healing process, if you have a good support system, it should be swimming. I didn't have any issues. And then they obviously like cover the scar. But if you have a laparoscopy, for example, I'm pretty sure your healing would even be much, much quicker. For some people, they put them half asleep. But for me, I completely refused that and rejected that. I didn't want an epidural because I've heard of women getting back pain from epidural, so I refused that, and I did not want to be awake either. I have no desire to see what is going on because I'll probably make a mistake. So I told them to put me completely under. So again, be very informed of what you want, because just because doctors are experts does not mean that they always do the best things in your interest. At the end of the day, these are still human beings. They have biases that come into how they treat you. They have money-minded people, some of them. I'm not saying doctors are money-minded as a general consensus, because I don't think that's true. But you have to watch on a case-by-case basis. So the only way you can mitigate this is by being very, very informed to advocate for yourself, which is what I did. So yeah, I've talked about the cost. The healing process was not so crazy. I think by third week, I was able to like go and attend a business meeting. So it wasn't anything crazy. I'd say the scar is what takes a bit of time to heal, because my scar is still healing. It's not open, it's not cracked, you can't see the thread anymore, but that side where they tie the knot takes some time. Like there's still numbness in certain areas. So it's definitely still a process, and I think I'm 3 months post-op officially, because I had my surgery on 6th December, and yeah, we're 3 months post-op officially. So that still takes time. You can also not engage in any sexual, intercourse for I think maybe 6 weeks to 8 weeks. So you have to keep that in mind as well. I think that fibroids are very under-discussed and very underrepresented and advocated for. So I found it very important to make sure that I talk about this as somebody who has been able to find a solution. And to be honest, I wouldn't even say I found a permanent solution, because my fibroids could come back at any point. But for me, I've decided that if they do come back and as aggressively as they did, then I will just have to take out my uterus, because that's the only effective way of not having fibroids anymore. So that's why a lot of women who genuinely have had maybe one kid or don't want to have kids, and they'll just take everything out at that point. So I would advise any girl out there or any woman out there who is dealing with fibroids and might be overwhelmed by how devastating it is to find real help. Because for me, this was a direct process somewhat, but I've heard of stories where people have suffered, people have taken herbal. I know that we want quick fixes, or I know that we want fixes that might not like scare us. But the truth is, if herbal was this very great all-knowing medicine that could change the way fibroids are, I feel like then we would have already figured that out. Because at the end of the day, one, human beings like things that actually work. Two, somebody would have already monetized it. It's that simple. So I don't think, because I also tried a bit of herbal for a bit, but I honestly didn't have the patience. And why I didn't have the patience is because I didn't have the time. Like, my bladder is being affected as we speak, so I had to get it out of my body. So before I close out this video, I just wanted to shout out to my friends and my family who slept in the hospital with me, who showed up for me, who bathed me, my little brothers, my little sister, my mom, my aunties, Cynthia, Chelsea, her family. Like, I'd like to shout out to those guys because they really showed up for me, and like, I never felt sad, I never felt bad. Like, Kaba, first in the hospital. I met Kaba and her mom in the hospital before I arrived. They were there. So to have such an incredible support system, I think, is the biggest thing of it all. I was so loved, so supported, and I wouldn't change anything. I'm really, really grateful. I make this video to hope that any other person who is looking for some sort of guide, especially a Ugandan woman, because I'm Ugandan, if you're looking for some sort of guide on how to start to heal your fibroids or what type of direction you might need to take, I hope that this video helps you. And if you know somebody who is struggling with fibroids, please don't hesitate to share this video with them, and leave a comment in case you have any questions or any queries, or even information that you could give me about fibroids, because again, it is not a permanent solution. This is the end of this video. If you've watched till the very end, I'm very appreciative. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Have a good one. See you next time.